I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the true episode 69 of Jedi Knights. I'm your host, Christian Buckley, here on the official Star Wars podcast of Joy Clicks, joined by my... Did we say you were Chewie or Buryaga?
I would say I'm I think we said I was Buryaga. If not, I want to be Buryaga.
Okay, well, I'm joined by my Buryaga Agaburi, Mike Connors.
Thank you. You got my full name.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm great, man. We have a good episode lined up today, and I'm just excited to be talking about Star Wars with you, as always.
Absolutely. We will touch on probably the biggest news of the last 7 days, Gina Carano leaving the Star Wars franchise. Woo. We will also go over...
I feel like we've like planted the seeds. Like,
yeah.
I feel like we've talked about Gina Carano and her we haven't talked about her that much, but like we have brought it up on the show before. So now we get to finally close it out.
Yes. There's some new interesting developments on the Boba Fett front in terms of his adventures beyond the Book of Boba Fett. And we're also going to touch on a topic I wanted to go into, our Dream High Republic stories. So we will talk about that in the later part of the episode, go into pitches, mediums we want to explore with this time period. But before all of that, we're going to kick the show off the way we normally do with our segment from the Jedi Archives, where we pull from the sacred texts of Wikipedia to educate each other and the listeners on something in the Star Wars universe. So Mike, I'm in the pilot seat today. I want you to go first. What's up?
All right, so I chose Conja Club. I don't think I don't think I pulled it before. People who know me know that I love Balatik, and now Balatik, I know he's not part of Conja Club. He's actually part of the Guavian Death Gang, but he mentions Conja Club in The Force Awakens. So I pulled Conja Club from Wikipedia today, and it says it was a notorious criminal organization that operated in the Outer Rim territories approximately 30 years after the Battle of Endor, so 30 years after Return of the Jedi. And it was led by Street Fighter Tasu Leech, who was also in The Force Awakens. So interesting stuff. I always thought that was just like a weird, like, kind of throwaway line, but like there could be a lot of like backstory to that. And it also sort of makes me think of all the criminal organizations that we see in Solo and the Clone Wars season 7 and everything. So
I would love it. I know we're setting up like the Crimson Dawn for Solo 2 when that happens, but I would love if as an aside to pitch and like tease a Solo 3, it's like, oh, there's this other job with Conja Club, and that just sets the tone,
For real though, like The Force Awakens takes place so long after Return of the Jedi, and Return of the Jedi takes place like pretty far after Solo. I wonder if Conja Club was just like the natural evolution of some of these criminal syndicates that we saw.
Sure, like the Pikes, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, right. Like that scene in Clone Wars season 7 where Maul's like in the sewers and he's talking to all the wondering if like maybe they were there. I don't know.
Yeah, what if like I remember there was a hologram that both of us called out looked oddly like Hux. So like, what if Conja Club was created by the father of Hux? Who knows? Interesting.
What did you pull today?
I'm pulling another from the High Republic, a character who I greatly enjoyed, Belle Zetaphar.
Nice, yeah. Why don't you tell us a bit about him?
Belle Zetaphar was a human male born in 250 before the Battle of Yavin. At some point, he was identified to be Force-sensitive by the Jedi Order and apprenticed to the Twi'lek Jedi Master Loden Greatstorm, GOAT. The GOAT is an aside. That is my own opinion. Zetaphar,
I think I would agree with you though. He's pretty much the GOAT.
Yeah. Zetaphar trained as his Padawan for multiple years. And we see a lot of his perspective on the world in Light of the Jedi. It seems that Belle is front and center. Well, actually, he is on the right side of the cover for the next chapter in the adult readers of the High Republic. The Rising Storm, I believe, is the name of the next one.
Oh, he's on the cover? I didn't...
Yep.
Interesting. Cool.
So excited to see more from Belle. I liked his banter a lot with his master, and I'm excited to see him potentially perform another rescue op in the coming High Republic content.
Yeah, no, it was cool. Spoilers for the High Republic, I guess, but like his like, he was learning how to force jump essentially, or force land. And I like that whole thing in novel. So
yeah, I like Belle. I think he's like a good place for younger people to latch on in this era because he is relatable. He's struggling, and he's learning to find his path in the Force. So I think he's a good, not like Luke Skywalker clone, but like he fits into that slot well of like, hey, this underdog hero guy, see where it goes.
Yeah, like that's it's very true. He has a lot of qualities. He kind of reminds me of Peter Parker in a way.
Yeah, that's a good call, good comparison.
So cool.
Yeah, so those are our picks for the Jedi Archives this week. As always, we will continue next week. But let's talk about some news, Mike. How badly do you have to mess up to be in Star Wars for multiple years and then have your Hasbro toys canceled?
Yeah. I actually didn't hear that part of this, to be honest with you.
So Gina Carano has been fired from Lucasfilm as a Disney employee. It was recently cited that it was in response to social media comments. To be honest, I don't know which ones. Like, there's been so many.
Well, I'm pretty sure I know which one it was.
Right, because, well, to preface all of this, I was reading a little bit about this a couple days ago, and I remember during the premiere of Mando Season 2, or not the premiere, but like while it was airing, I was like kind of surprised at some of the things she was saying about like the pandemic being a hoax and like all this other stuff. I'm like, so they're writing her off the show. That's why she's allowed to say all this stuff, right? Like that's what's happening. And it's been unclear. So do you know, Mike, like when she was actually let go? Was she let go last fall, or was it just recently because of the more extreme comments?
I am pretty positive it was recently after that Instagram debacle.
Yeah, would you like to recap what she posted on Instagram? That is
like
the firing point.
Yeah, it's absolutely just like the worst thing ever.
Yep.
But she basically went on Instagram, and I'm not going to repeat it because it shouldn't. I'm not going to repeat it in detail because it shouldn't really be repeated in detail like that. But she made some comment comparing, like, conservative celebrities in America to Jews in the Holocaust, and that I think was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yes. This is not the first time that Gina Carano has been under persecution within the Star Wars fandom. Obviously, when I say the Star Wars fandom, that doesn't include everybody, because there are several people who are very upset about this, that are being like, you're stifling free speech. And just like want her to stay involved just to own the libs or something on that level, like, because she's not a good actor. Like, I don't know why anybody would want her to be maintaining in this unit. Like, she fills the role fine. Like, nobody goes to Cara Dune expecting some deep, rich character study of a former ARC trooper, right? It's like, oh, it's a cool concept. She's here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, honestly, it's kind of surprising that it took so long for them to can her, right? Yeah,
because, like I was saying, this isn't the first time. Like, you had the lead of your show, Pedro Pascal. His sister came out as trans, and then he was like, hey, I will put my pronouns in my bio. I'd appreciate it if the rest of the cast did as well. Gina was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then people were like, come on, why not? Just do it. And then she put beep, boop, bop in her profile. Like, come the fuck on, man. Like, you're disrespectful as hell. And the kicker is that I don't understand how some people overlook the irony of, like, somebody who's supposed to stand in character as, like, a symbol of union and strength and solidarity and open-mindedness.
And like fighting against tyranny and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I don't get it, man. But
I mean, yeah, like she's said some pretty bad stuff before, and it's funny because when Disney fired her, Disney Lucasfilm fired her, there was a tweet going around where it was a screenshot of Gina Carano's Twitter page, and it said followed by Pedro Pascal, and then it was another photo, like screenshot of her Twitter page, and it didn't say that anymore.
Yeah.
And like I haven't fact checked that, but like I'm pretty sure like that's just so funny, like, and it's so telling that like. I wonder if they all like hated her on set, you know?
Yeah. I
don't know. But one really funny thing that happened after this, which is not really funny, but just ridiculous. Gina Carano is, just turned around and announced a new movie project with Ben Shapiro. So
she's doing just fine for herself now, huh?
Yeah, right? Like she said they can't cancel us if we don't let them. And that's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Because you can't go on Instagram and say those sorts of things. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I know like there are probably people that might be listening being like, this is a Star Wars podcast, stick to Star Wars. But like Star Wars goes beyond that, even from when it began, it was about Star Wars has always been rooted in politics. George Lucas is very, very liberal. Like, yeah.
I mean, George Lucas has said that he basically created he formulated like the idea of these ragtag group of rebels going up against a big government to like the Viet Cong.
Yeah.
Like it is very much rooted in all this kind of stuff. And the stormtroopers have like, Nazis sort of like parallels and everything. So yeah, of course. Star Wars and politics are not mutually exclusive. That's it. They're one and the same.
Exactly. So I do think it's fair game, and honestly, probably like it's our responsibility covering the Star Wars and talking about this fandom to talk about this. But like,
yeah,
I also don't think that those who are outraged by like say that stuff in front of your boss and see what happens. Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Freedom of speech has never meant freedom of consequence. So these are the consequences. You're gonna act out. You're gonna be a wilding out here, being incredibly closed-minded and bigoted. You're gonna get axed.
That's a great point, Christian. Like she could say whatever the hell she wants. But she can't expect not to face any consequences from it.
Yes.
And it must be they must have gone to her, like Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy. They must have gone to her and been like, if you act up again, like we will just easily write you out of the show. Like, so yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah. So I guess on grounding it back to Mandalorian, just to close out this topic.
Yeah.
How do you see her being written out, exiting the show? Like, is it just going to be an offhand thing? Or are they going to be like, oh, she blew up on Alderaan's moon or something? Like, what do you think happens?
So, like, we ended Mandalorian season 3 with some like it seemed like a pretty definitive ending. Din Djarin gave Baby Yoda to Luke, and you have to expect that there's probably going to be some sort of like time jump, right? You got to give Din Djarin some time to process that, see what that does to himself. Losing somebody like that, losing Baby Yoda, and yeah, I don't think it's that. Like, let's be honest. Like, Cara Dune like wasn't really like that essential of a character to begin with. It would be quite easy for them to just be like, yeah, she died in a mining incident.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you saw this. Also, there were reports that she was having a spin-off show developed, and that it was also canceled in tandem. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder then how long this has been coming, because it seems that based on what I've read about because listen, I could not care less about her character at this point.
Oh yeah, I'm totally Yeah, good riddance.
So I hadn't looked into this rumored spinoff show, but I think it was like they were kicking that around last year, and it was canceled at the end of last year. So I'm wondering if what would have been the Cara Dune show was retooled into Rangers of the New Republic.
Dude, like I don't know, because I think she was employed with Disney Lucasfilm up until she made that Instagram comment.
Sure, I mean more of like she was wilding out last year, so maybe as a contingency they were like, hey, instead of giving her a show, how about we just tool it around? We'll see if we want to keep her as a supporting member on that show, and then we eventually came to our senses. But
yeah, I mean, let's be honest, Christian, you might disagree with me, but like Gina Carano wasn't really an exceptional actor anyway.
Yeah.
So good riddance.
I follow Paul Tassi, writes for Forbes, writes a lot of gaming stuff, also writes a fair amount of commentary and news on Mandalorian and WandaVision, so Disney Plus content.
Yeah.
He put out a great tweet that was basically like, how about whatever we had planned for Cara Dune and Gina Carano, we just replace Sasha Banks and her Mandalorian character in that position, because let me tell you, like, I think just maybe Sasha Banks might be able to outact Gina Carano, because Sasha Banks at least comes from a place of live performance where you have that raw power and raw performance potential that can just be channeled into good acting.
Right.
And I'd be completely down for that. I'd love that.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, there's got to be there's gonna have to be like there's a void now that needs to be filled. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So why not take an existing character and just elevate them to that role?
Yeah.
But yeah, Gina Carano is a disgrace. And yeah, I'm happy she's not in Star Wars anymore, and I think she should not be in anything else ever again.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, you know what isn't canceled? Maybe.
Okay.
Old Star Wars games. Now.
Yeah.
Mike, we talk about old Star Wars games a decent amount on this podcast.
Yeah, because we're huge nerds.
Exactly. And, ever since the Disney purchase and the EA getting the contract for Star Wars games, Battlefront 1, why can't we have a pink Darth Vader? All of that stuff, it's all rooted in the idea that, like, if there's new content that releases, it has to be canon. So that immediately devalues, like, a bunch of the old games. Basically, any game that existed before EA shipped Battlefront 1 was swept into Legends. So the return of these titles was sort of in question. But via some source code on Steam, somebody found this in one of the refreshes of anything, the Nintendo Switch was referenced in an update for Star Wars Republic Commando.
Nice.
The 4-player co-op game, basically what I want the Bad Batch game to be. Takes place during the Clone Wars. You play as Delta Squad. That game now references the Nintendo Switch. So it got some rumors rumbling that there will be a port of Star Wars Republic Commando coming to Switch, presumably other consoles as well, sooner or later. So,
this is an Asper Media joint, correct?
I am actually not too sure about that one, but I do know it's like kind of a cult hit. Like whenever anybody talks about Republic Commando, they're always like, "Dude, I loved that game."
Or I meant like the re-release was.
I can check on that.
Okay, I maybe I just misread or misheard, but yeah, I'm pretty sure we talk about some rumors last week about like potential Asper Media re-releases of old Star Wars games, and I was like, oh, what about Republic Commando?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You called it.
Yeah, I called it, guys. This is why for the listeners out there, this is why you listen to JoyClick's Jedi Knights, because you can get the scoop before it's released to everybody else.
Of course,
I'm psychic in that way.
Flexing that journalism background.
Exactly. My journalism degree actually means that I'm psychic. It makes me psychic.
So what's interesting paired with this, Mike, is that today, as of recording and when this episode's posting, Nintendo announced their first General Direct, which is their presentation where they announce upcoming titles, third party, first party. They said it's going to go over existing games and new releases from now until June of this year. Now, I don't remember if you recall this, but I think a couple years back, or maybe last year even, when Episode 1 Racer got ported, as well as Jedi Academy, I think.
Yeah.
Those were revealed as coming out through a Nintendo Direct. So,
interesting.
Considering that this report is showing that it's like, hey, it's referencing the hardware of the Switch. There's a presentation tomorrow. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if Republic Commando is coming to Switch pretty soon. And based on the track record of old Star Wars games coming out on Switch and other platforms, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple other games dropping alongside this one, like we saw in the past with Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast, and Episode 1 Racer.
Right. So what do you think would be re-released? Because we're sort of running out of like those popular like old Star Wars games, right? Like not running out, but like, you know, there's only a certain amount of them that like a majority of people would want to play. You know?
I think, let's say there's a wave of 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say Republic Commando is one of these.
Okay.
Star Wars Battlefront 2 Classic with multiplayer.
Dude. If they they could easily do that.
Yeah.
Or not easily, but they could do that.
Well, just take the Steam port, you know? Because, like, take what's on Steam and port it to Switch, because I believe that's basically what they did for Jedi Knight and Jedi Academy. Like, I think they took those as they exist and they just ported them to Switch, you know? And they included multiplayer in whichever one of those two had multiplayer, so...
I was gonna say, because I actually have the old Battlefront 2 on Switch, but like never played it. So that has multiplayer already.
For Jedi Academy, you mean?
Oh, I meant Battlefront 2.
Okay. Yeah, so Battlefront 2 on Steam does have the
Steam.
multiplayer still.
Right. I meant Steam.
Okay. So, yeah, if they just did what they did for either Academy or Outcast, I forget which one it is. I think
it was Academy.
Okay. Then yeah, just do that. There you go.
Easy peasy.
Mm-hmm.
I think they. So if it would be Republic Commando as one of the 3, you guess Battlefront 2 would be the second one.
Worth noting that the Republic Commando listing also references multiplayer, so you will most likely be able to play your co-op multiplayer for Republic Commando on Switch.
Yeah, Battlefront 2, old school Battlefront 2 multiplayer on the Switch is like next level.
Yeah, man. I'd be so happy. Because the thing is, like, Battlefront 2, growing up, I used to play it with my brother all the time on the PS2. Whenever I went over friends' houses, it was like, hey, let's Geonosis, snipers only. Like,
yeah.
It just screams that, like, local couch co-op multiplayer that the Switch is so good at. So, like, I think it makes so much sense. And just throw online in there. We're in a pandemic still. Just do that.
No, for real. Like, it's such an opportunity for them. And especially because, you know, Star Wars is huge right now. So,
exactly, yeah.
And, you know, if you put it on there, how much would it be? Like $10-15? Like, someone could just...
I think...
How much you think?
Probably, like, I could see 20.
Okay, 20.
Because, like, I'm sorry, I don't know. Jedi Knight 2, Academy Outcast, whatever the hell it was. I think those are like $20 also, but they go on sale pretty frequently, so.
Okay, but $20 still, like, is a reasonable price for something like this.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'd pay $30 for it. I'd be so happy to play that game again on the Switch.
Yeah, man. Do you think they would, like, make it look better at all? That's, like, not the way to say it, but... Yeah,
probably not. Because, like, I think... whatever those other games are on the Switch, I know Episode 1 Racer and then the Jedi Academy games, those are like they're crisp. They're still like, I think 1080, but the visuals look the same. Like the models are the same, the textures are the same. But if I'm assuming it can run like 1080 60, go for it, you know, like there you go.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for the nostalgia factor alone. So, okay, if there was a wave of 3, what would be the third? Just like maybe the first Battlefront?
I could see it be the first Battlefront. I could see it be KOTOR 1, because KOTOR 1 is on everything. Like, it's on phones.
I thought that
it's
was...
on Kindles.
Right. Is it really?
Yeah.
No way.
You can play KOTOR 1 on a Kindle. Well, not the, like,
Are you
the paper...
kidding me?
Not the, like, the paper Kindle, but, like, a Kindle Fire. Like, yes.
Yeah. Okay, alright, wait. That's crazy.
Yeah. So put it on Switch.
Yeah, then they should just easily put it on Switch. But if they're going to do that, then shouldn't they put 2 as well? Because didn't 2 just come out on the phone?
Yeah, well, I think in the previous drops of Star Wars games on Switch, I don't know if Jedi Knight and Jedi Outcast came out at the same time, or Jedi Academy and Jedi Outcast, whatever they're called. I think they were separated by a decent amount, so I could see them be like, hey, in this wave, you get 1 KOTOR. Next time we do this, maybe you get Bounty Hunter, Force Unleashed, and KOTOR 2. Who knows?
Oh, Force Unleashed, man.
Mm-hmm. And 3 is a completely arbitrary number. It could just be this, but I think they probably do like maybe at least 2. So
yeah, I think it, at least 2 would make sense.
Mm-hmm. So
that's exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah. So by next episode, we'll know if Republic Commander showed up on the Direct, if there's other stuff as well. But also, I wouldn't put this too out of the question. I could see a world where we get an announcement date for Lego Star Wars also.
Oh, tomorrow? Like at that Direct, you mean?
Yeah, they could say like, here's a trailer, it's coming to Switch in the first half of the year, and it's releasing May 4th or something. I could see that easily.
Yeah, I think, it's getting down to the wire. If they say like, what'd they say, Q1, right? Or whatever.
I think they said spring. Yeah.
Spring. Yeah, they're getting down to the wire. There's like been zero marketing for that.
Mm-hmm. So why not start it here?
No? I mean, yeah, like if it's going to be on the Switch,
so
who cares? We
will see what happens.
Yes.
We also got some news about Boba Fett, Mike.
Oh, is it about a TV show, Christian?
We're getting the book of Boba Fett later this year, but we are getting a book of Boba Fett earlier.
Oh,
in the form of a comic.
With the jokes, Christian.
So there's a new Boba Fett comic coming from Marvel Comics. It is a new event, big crossover event at the Star Wars comics, called War of the Bounty Hunters. Mike, if you had to take a guess, I know you can see the doc, but who do you think's writing this thing? Who do you think's writing this thing?
Cavan Scott.
Unfortunately, no.
Oh, who is it?
Charles Soule, believe it or not.
No way. Oh.
So Charles Soule, again, if you're unfamiliar with Star Wars comics or literature in Star Wars, Charles Soule wrote Light of the Jedi, which kicked off the High Republic. We did our review of that for this podcast. He also wrote Vader, and The Rise of Kylo Ren, which we've talked about a fair amount on the show here and there.
Indeed.
But there's a quote that I really liked, Mike, that he gave.
Yeah.
In regard to what the story is for War of the Bounty Hunters, it's from Boba Fett's perspective. It takes place between 5 and 6. Charles Soule said, I don't think Boba Fett went straight to Jabba's palace after getting Han Solo. I want to tell that story.
Yeah.
So, they've released the cover art for the first issue. It's a prelude issue, actually. It's a Boba Fett, like with his blaster, and his hand is like guarding Han and Carbonite. And basically where this arc is picking up, where this event is starting, is that Boba Fett is not in possession of frozen Han Solo, and he's fighting to get him back.
What? Okay, so it doesn't start with like, put him in the cargo vault.
Well, I'm assuming that's what the prelude comic is. I bet it starts there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's super interesting.
That is really interesting. So, there's this really great like hour-long documentary that some person made about Shadows of the Empire and its development on YouTube. And I could send it to you, Christian, at some other point. It's really, really fascinating. But it goes through the plot of Shadows of the Empire game. And in the Shadows of the Empire game, that also takes place between 5 and 6. Boba Fett goes to deliver Han Solo to Jabba. But like as he's doing that, IG-88, right?
Yep.
attacks, trying to claim Solo for himself. And so like he has to like dip out of Tatooine before giving Solo to Jabba and everything. So like, you know, we get that scene in episode 5 where Vader lines up all the bounty hunters, right? It makes sense that like, you know, there probably was some other bounty hunter that was like trying to claim Solo as his own and ended up stealing him from Boba.
I want to see like an uneasy alliance between Boba Fett and Bosk in this comic.
Yeah. Well, like think about it, you know, like, you know, Bosk somehow takes Han, you know, or something like that. That's a really great story. That's a really great idea, honestly.
Yeah, because the main Star Wars comic recently has been covering the gap of 5 to 6, you know. That's where we got yellow lightsaber Luke. That's how he's been, you know, doing his Jedi business between Empire and Return of the Jedi. Have you checked out any of those comics yet? Because it seems like a really interesting time period that I want to explore, but I haven't yet.
Yeah. No, yeah, I have not looked at any of it because like Empire Strikes Back ends on a very negative note. And so it's cool. It would be cool to read more about like how they got to Jabba's palace, essentially.
Yeah, because I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty positive. Isn't the gap between Empire and Return of the Jedi like 3 years in universe?
No, I think
or is that's 4 and 5?
That's 4 and 5. It's
Okay.
it's like 2 or 3 years, but then between 5 and 6 it's like a little over a year, like 18 months or something.
Okay.
Because I think I'm don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure because I think that like, you know, they are on, you know how like at the end of Empire they're like outside of the galaxy basically looking at it. The Rebel Alliance had to sort of just like get out for a while to regroup, and they're basically planning how to get Han back for that entire time.
Okay, yes. So it looks like Empire Strikes Back takes place roughly 3 years after the Battle of Yavin. Return of the Jedi takes place several months after Empire Strikes Back, about 4 years after the Battle of Yavin. So yeah, it's a 3 year gap from 4 to 5, 1 year gap about from 5 to 6. So still,
okay, yeah.
I think enough time to have some interesting stories like this, and Luke with the new lightsaber and all that stuff. So I'll check it out at some point for sure.
You got to figure that the main focus is, you know, how do we get Han back?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's interesting. Like, I do want to read those. I kind of just almost want to wait until their run is finished and then just go at it from that.
So, on that level, then, did you ever read the 4 to 5 comic series? Because I didn't.
Some of it, yeah. I have like the first 2 paperback volumes that I read.
Okay.
The rest of it, though, no, I haven't read that. But from what I remember, it's really cool. Like it's sort of like Luke. He's not powerful like at all. So like it's basically still him trying to like figure out how to be a Jedi, like what being a Jedi is, and like basic Force stuff. It's cool.
Nice. Yeah. Then I'll check that out at some point for sure.
Yeah.
But speaking of Star Wars literature and expanded media, we're going to talk about our main topic now. Our dream stories from the High Republic. We can go pretty freeform with this, you know.
Yeah.
Whatever comes to mind. If you want to explore maybe a TV series, a movie, a game, a book, like some story that you want to see explored in a specific medium, however detailed you want to get with it, because we got 200 years to work with in this period, so there's a lot of potential.
A long time. So yeah, Christian, you were the one who kind of came up with this. Was there something that you already had in mind that you were thinking of?
So
in terms of a High Republic story,
there's a type of thing I've always wanted to see in Star Wars in terms of a story that I think could work in the High Republic.
Okay.
And it's like some sort of horror movie. This could work as a book as well, I think. But some sort of horror film or book from the perspective of like a smuggler who is with their crew, crash lands on some planet, and they're hunted down. Basically like Predator. um, by some sort of alien creature, and I think it could be interesting if we go two paths with it. We could either explore a bounty hunter, or sorry, not a bounty hunter, a smuggler who crashes and then is being hunted down by the Nile, perhaps like a Nile warrior who lives on this planet, and it basically owns it. Or because the Outer Rim and the unknown regions are fair game in this time period, then just maybe some new alien species that we've never come across that's hostile.
Yeah, dude. Yes.
Yeah.
So this sort of sounds similar to Into the Dark, kind of, right? The Claudia Gray novel.
Yeah.
In a way, not what I think what you're thinking of is a bit more like of a darker, like horror-y story, correct?
Yeah, and like don't make it about a Jedi or even a Padawan. Make it like a terrestrial person in this universe who like is at a severe disadvantage, you know. I think
go ahead. Oh, sorry. No, so what are you gonna say?
I was gonna say I think this could work. Basically, I'm just wanting to recreate Predator in the Star Wars universe, and I think the set dressing of this era with the Nile could work.
Yeah.
On a similar note, I think you could also do kind of like Alien, of again a smuggler on their ship gets raided by the Nile, and then they're like sneaking through the ship, more like Die Hard basically, but in a spaceship, I guess, of like hunting down the Nile.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I think something like that, like a very strong thriller about a smuggler dealing with the Nile at a huge disadvantage would be amazing in this era.
You know, it could be sort of like a smuggler is, because they talk about a lot how the Outer Rim is not really explored by the Republic. So, and we know like the Great Hyperspace Disaster sort of like affected the whole galaxy, right? It would be cool to like have a smuggler and like his friends like on a ship, and they get like pulled out of hyperspace during that disaster and like crash land on like an unknown Outer Rim planet. Yeah, I could just like, it's already coming together in my head.
Exactly, yeah. And honestly, I could see it too of like post Hetzel system destruction, right? Like
that too.
That it's like, hey, maybe the smugglers, their cargo is so precious they don't want to risk having the same thing happen to them, so they just don't go through hyperspace and they have to do a normal voyage, you know. And it's like along that way they get raided by the Nile, and it's like this lone smuggler sneaking through the ventilation of their big cargo freighter, you know. It's at that point it's Die Hard, but like I do think exactly. I think Star Wars could absolutely use a thriller story. Utilize your aliens, utilize the set of the High Republic, which is again very unknown. A lot of
the mystery of space.
Yeah, so I think there's a innate sense of dread and horror that you can get out of that I would love to see from the perspective of a normal person in this era. Yeah.
So I mean, what do you think that would be best as, like a book or like a TV show, or a limited TV show, maybe?
Honestly, I think it would be book or movie, because I think a show on a concept level, I don't know how long you can stretch out of this for like surviving this enemy that, you know, I don't know if you can stretch that out, but I think having the benefit of a book where you can pick it up and put it down on that level, but it is still very tense. Or a film, the way that, again, Alien, Predator, Die Hard works, and it is able to build on that suspense. I think those are the ideal forms I'd like to see this kind of story in.
Yeah, I think a film would probably be best for something like this, for sure.
Yeah.
One thing that I was thinking about, Christian, I don't know if you have anything else to add on that idea.
Oh, no, just call it Space Hard. I don't know.
Space Hard.
A Star Wars story.
Yeah, exactly. You have to throw a Star Wars story at
Yeah. So let me hear your idea.
I think it's something that we've sort of discussed before, briefly, Christian, but the idea of like what is going on with the Sith during the High Republic. Now, I don't know if there really is like that gripping of a story to tell. Maybe we could maybe it would be interesting to just tell the story of like you know, just like a Sith apprentice and like at this time, and like how they have to hide the fact that they're a Sith, and then like maybe it culminates with them like taking over and killing their master or something like that, but just have it all happen underneath the shadows like this. I think that would be a really cool story. It would sort of be a good way for Star Wars to develop the rule of two a bit more, I think. And I think we've talked about like maybe a Darth Bane story, perhaps. Not saying it has to be that. In fact, I think it would be cool if it wasn't that. If it was something a bit different, just, you know, something we've never seen before.
Yeah. Do you hope that that's what Acolyte is about?
Like, I don't know. Like, the thing is like I know what you're getting at, because like the Acolyte seems very, like, it seems like they might talk about the Sith and like do some Sith stuff in the High Republic, but like I just don't know what that is at all. I hope that's what it is. I think that would be really cool.
So I googled definition of Acolyte, if we want to just get raw with it. A person assisting the celebrant in a religious service or procession. So the Acolyte could potentially be about a Sith apprentice or something.
Yeah, it could potentially be that. I think a TV show would be an interesting way to do it, for sure. Because you could get some serious development in character throughout like a few seasons.
Would you like it if it was because if you were leaning series already, and let's just say for the sake of the idea that that's what Acolyte is generally about, do you think you'd want to have this idea spread out across the entire High Republic, or would you want to like pick and choose, like, okay, right at the beginning of the High Republic, tell the story of the Sith and this apprentice hiding in the background, or would you want to like check in at multiple different points in the era of the High Republic and see like how things are developing?
I think it would make sense to start this whatever story you're going to tell like at the beginning of the High Republic era as we know it as readers and viewers, right? And then like check in on it as it goes on. Just like now that I'm thinking about it, it would be really cool to have like sort of a Vader-esque like just a Jedi who falls, or the opposite, like a Sith who falls becomes good again. I don't know, like there are a lot of different ways you can take it, but I guess I just want to see like for a Sith apprentice during this time, you have to be doing some like shady stuff, and like what does the training look like? Like where do you go? Like what sort of missions does your Sith master like send you on, and how do you keep it all secret, right? I don't know, I just think there's a lot to be just explored there.
For sure, yeah. I think that's a really good, interesting idea, because as much as people love the Sith,
yeah, I
feel like we never really get to sink in with them, especially in like the new canon.
Right, like, you know, like the old canon with Knights of the Republic and everything,
Plagueis.
You sort of got Plagueis, you know, you got the sense that the Sith was like an institution almost, right? And with the new canon, you kind of just like get the idea that they're the bad guys and that they're just like out to cause chaos, and yeah, that's what they are, but like there's a bit more depth to like the Sith order, right? And I just think it would be an interesting opportunity to explore that. Honestly, I would like to see it in a book series more than I'd like to see it like on screen. I just think it would be cool to get like really in depth with what is a Sith, right? Like that basic question. Because like you said, it hasn't really been explored that much.
Yeah, and I do really love the idea of following them while they're hiding, you know, because it's supposed to, like, there is not a peep that would suggest that Palpatine is going to turn and become Sidious in Revenge of the Sith, right? Like, obviously the suspicions in Phantom Menace, right? They're like, hey, there are things at play, there's dark feelings that we don't know what they're about yet.
Yeah.
But nobody says, like, is it a Sith? Like, nobody even thinks about that.
Right. So, well, until the end.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, once it's like Mace Windu is like, he sees the red lightsaber, he's like, oh. Like,
Yeah.
I think specific with that in mind, and looking at this era where it's the Jedi being prosperous, looking at the their enemies in the Nile, like where you're coming from it, of like following them and their struggle of being in hiding and progressing this plot, I think would be very interesting. And I think a book is probably, like you said, the best.
I mean, I think that there's a lot. If I could just really quickly just say that in Phantom Menace, right, we get Yoda saying like, there's always two, right? No more, no less. Like, how did he know that?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think it would be an interesting story if we got, a Sith apprentice and his master back in the High Republic era trying to hide. Because in Light of the Jedi, I don't think Sith is mentioned once.
No.
Right?
Yeah, it's not.
It's not at all. So, it seems as though it's obvious that that's not like a threat to the Jedi at this point. So at what point does that change, right? At what point do the Jedi understand that, yeah, the Sith are like still out there, but like they're in small numbers?
Yeah.
Because Yoda knows that. Somehow.
And I was going to say, because if the High Republic begins 200 years before Phantom Menace, Yoda's 900, right?
Yoda's around. They mentioned Yoda in Light of the Jedi.
Right. So if he's like 700 something in the High Republic era?
Yeah.
Was he around in the Old Republic? How does that work? When does the Old Republic end and the High Republic begin? Is there like another period between then, or what?
I don't know, but you also have to think, right? Like when he was 50 years old, when he was like looking like when he was looking like Grogu.
Yeah.
How much of that did he really understand?
Yeah, or retain,
Right. Because he's still a kid.
Yeah.
Like, they age differently. So I'm just saying, I don't like, just based off the fact that the Sith are like, the other side of the coin when you're talking about the Jedi, right? And they're not mentioned once in Light of the Jedi, makes me wonder, like, there's got to be maybe there's some sort of like event that happens that sort of notifies the Jedi that, like, maybe they're not all gone.
Sure.
Because I don't know, maybe it's we follow an apprentice and a master and they're trying to stay hidden and they fail. Something like that. I don't know. But it's just always got me like, how does Yoda know that? And maybe we'll never get that answer. Maybe it was just convenient writing.
The sacred Jedi texts.
Right. Or maybe he is just old enough.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So since we're talking about Yoda, let me throw this at you then.
Okay.
He's around in the High Republic. I'm assuming at one point we're gonna get a Yoda thing set in the High Republic. How would you want them to go about that? Like, ideally, you're getting a Yoda story in the High Republic. What's it about? What's the medium? What would you prefer?
Comic book.
Okay.
I would prefer to see this through comic book, but I think in Light of the Jedi they talk about how Yoda went on some sort of like Jedi sabbatical, right? Didn't they?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, like legit. So what is he doing? Like, when you think about like a college professor who goes on sabbatical, they are usually like doing research, right?
Yeah.
What sort of research is Yoda doing into the Force during that time?
Yeah, that's a really interesting story, and I'm sure because there are that tease, like you mentioned, of like what he's up to.
Yeah,
that's probably where the story would take place, right? You'd assume,
right,
just to fill in that gap. But
yeah, I mean, were you thinking of something else, Christian?
I could see a world. I was gonna say book, like maybe a trilogy. But at that point, I think the way Yoda speaks is probably better suited for a comic. Because you
wanted a Yoda trilogy?
Maybe, like
book trilogy.
A book trilogy, yeah. Sorry, yes, a Yoda novel series, like 3 of them.
Hey, or a Yoda movie trilogy too.
Yeah, why not? Is that what the Rian Johnson trilogy is?
I hope so.
But yeah, I think I think you're right. Comic is the best way to do it because, listen, I love Yoda, but I don't know if like diving in deep with like a big tome about Yoda in this time period is like what I would love to see them put the resources of the High Republic towards, you know?
Right. Yeah. You know, I just don't see. I don't see a Yoda novel anytime soon.
Yeah.
Could you imagine writing that though?
Oh my God.
Yeah, it just is so like against everything you probably are as a writer to do dialogue.
Like, does he internal monologue that way too? Like, does he think like that?
Oh, true. Yeah. I mean, probably not, right?
I don't know. I really don't.
I don't know. But like, yeah, you think about it, right? Like, in episode 3, like Yoda's like 800 years old, and he's still nice with the lightsaber, dude. Like, he's really good at it.
Yeah.
So, you know, minus 200 years, he's probably like the best around.
Yeah. I think the way they pitched it is like, I think he's a little not grizzled, but like in this time period, he's like 60-year-old getting ready for retirement type guy, you know, like. So honestly, I wouldn't be opposed either to maybe just a singular movie to explore him in like whatever he's doing. I think that could be fun too, but
sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, he's more like the wise philosopher type in the prequels.
Yeah, like I don't really want a large initiative of this era dedicated to Master Yoda. You know, if he pops up here and there, that's awesome. But
yeah, as he should.
Yeah. So is there anything else specifically that you would like to see, probably like uniquely to this era, you know? Because like my thing about a smuggler could work with like almost any era. I do think having a threat like the Nile would be really cool for a movie in that setting, in that scenario. But is there anything that you feel like would work best in this era in a specific project you want to see? Like, is there a game that you really want from this High Republic? Like anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think what would be really interesting is just, you know, they sort of give the Outer Rim a frontier feel, right? Like unexplored and everything. And I just think it would be cool to just have a story where they like, I don't know, like find a new planet or something like that. And it doesn't even have to be Jedi related. Just like anything like that, just sort of like building out the lore like that. I don't have a specific thing in mind.
Sure.
But yeah, just that would be cool. I just think that there's a lot to explore there, and I want to see, you know, just adventures in the sense where like there is a frontier that like they don't know what lies beyond them. Is cool.
Yeah, and I think I'm right there with you where the Jedi, seeing them in this era, I really think is interesting, just to explore the hubris, you know, and like where it comes from, where it leads to, why they feel it's earned at that point, I guess. But yeah, I do really think that, like you're saying, with all these unknowns and sort of what I led with my first idea, like I do want to explore a bit of this era from non-Jedi characters, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure we'll get asides of like, maybe there's a farmer that like, oh, I don't like the Jedi. You overstep your boundaries. Maybe we get like the perspective of a Duchess of Mandalore that's like, oh, you guys are warriors. You're not protectors. Like, but having something centralized on a character like that, or again, a smuggler or a bounty hunter or a soldier, like I think having that perspective on this era with some sort of genre twist on it could be really, really fun.
Right. It's like, you know, they're like, what is it like being a citizen in Mos Eisley?
Sure.
Or, right? Like we never get that story. And you know, there are so many, the galaxy's so big, and there are so many you know, different organisms living different lives, that there are just like countless different, you know, stories to tell. I guess you could just take some random person who was on Hetzal, right? And just like have them go through an adventure. Right? Like they just sort of find themselves in over their heads, and they're not special in any way. You know, maybe the Jedi like pop up once, but but you know, that kind of stuff is just we never see that from Star Wars, and I would love to see that from this, because I think it's a like you said, it's a good opportunity to sort of explore this time period.
Yeah, give me the Solo of the High Republic. That's what I want. You know,
legit. Yeah, we don't need Jedi and everything.
Yeah, and listen, I love the Jedi. I know some people sometimes find like a weird divide, and they're like, "Oh, I don't like the Jedi. I only like the non-Force people in Star Wars." It's like, I love all of it. Just like make sure you represent all of it, you know?
Yeah, like, you know, you don't have to have Jedi in a Star Wars project.
Yeah, I think maybe that's like a phase 2 thing for the High Republic. If as of right now it's mainly just, hey, the dawn or like the peak of the Jedi. Maybe we're still gonna explore that for a while, but I would love to see, like we're mentioning, the ground level look at it for sure.
Yeah.
So,
but other than that, I don't really know if I have any more ideas. I guess I wouldn't be the best at you know, pitching stories, but
well, I do think we have some pretty solid ideas, and I would love at some point in a game. I can not tell you what I would want that game to be. I think open world city is probably the best thing, just to flesh it out that way. I don't know about an RPG.
Can I say I don't want a game in this time period yet?
Okay,
at least
sure.
I really don't. I think what I would want to see in terms of a game is more of just like, I want to play out my childhood, you know, like I don't like I there's something about like playing as Cal Kestis like during that time, like it's very emotional, like and if there was something in the High Republic, I don't know if it would carry that same emotional weight.
What if you were exploring somewhere like a Coruscant in this time period, but it's still Coruscant?
Listen, Christian, I'm not saying that if there was a High Republic game I wouldn't play it.
Yeah,
I would.
Yes,
let's get that straight. But is it like what I'm like hoping for? Not really.
I get you for sure. Well, I do think we have some solid ideas, and if any of these happen, that'd be super cool, because I think there's a lot to explore in the High Republic, and I know we have, I think, up until June announced as of right now with the core stories, but I'm excited to see what the next chapter is. I know Acolyte is confirmed to be towards the end of the High Republic, and that's, I think, probably at this point still a few years away. I don't think that's shooting yet, but or anytime soon. But
yeah, there are a plethora of stories to tell in this time period, and I'm sure that they've got some good ones cooking at Disney Lucasfilm right now.
Absolutely. But until then, Mike, any final words, and where can everybody find you?
May the Force be with you. I say that at the end, but you can find me at Mike P. Connors on Twitter.
Very nice. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and TikTok at ChuntyD2. This show is available on youtube.com/joyclicks, as well as podcast services under Jedi Knights. If you listen to it on your platform of choice, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever, and you can rate and review, it'd be greatly appreciated if you did, because giving a 5-star if you enjoy the show takes a second, and it helps us out a ton.
Oh yeah.
If you want to get involved further, though, patreon.com/joyclicks, the $1 and $5 tiers will get you rewards and producer credit at the $5 tier, like Chris Sakas and Aaron Easton. So thank you very much. And I believe that is it in the world of Star Wars this week. I alluded to this earlier. We can close on this.
Okay.
I saw some report. I don't know how valid it is. Someone was like, hey, Rian Johnson trilogy still happening. So
yeah, well, I hope so.
I'm gonna keep the faith. But
I want a Star Wars Knives Out. That's what I want.
Yeah, hell yeah. But maybe next week we'll learn again that it's still happening. We'll get another update, but
yeah, well, could you imagine Star Wars themed Knives Out?
Hell yeah, dude.
Benoit Blanc come through.
That'd be so cool.
I found the lightsaber in the
the sand. But until next week, we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.